Fellow Raxians, hello. Commander Cyrious here.
Remember to evade, guys. Remember to evade.
I apologize for my absence. More on that later. But with the command center set up again, I wanted to give you an update on Planetside 2. The most consequential news being that it's been sold. So soldiers, let's shake the rust off and get back into it. I'll see you Planetside.
So sorry.
So soldiers, I took a step back for a couple reasons. The game reason is that Rel was leaving. There is a new sheriff in town. I don't know who it is. No one does. And I didn't want to put my finger on or under the scale. Rel pulled Planetside 2 back from the brink and tripled its lifespan. So he had earned support. Having no idea what team was next, I didn't really expect anything from them, but also didn't want them to have to fight the headwind of a bunch of veteran players analyzing every move. And the IRL reason is that we bought our dream property and we moved. For a very long time, I did not have a computer set up, and longer still, I had a single screen sitting in the pantry. And if you've seen my streams, you know how I roll, and the single screen setup just doesn't really work for me to get stuff done. So I've been watching curiously from afar, and if you want an update of what's been going on with Planetside 2, the answer is nothing. There's really nothing significant that has happened in-game since Rel left. An additional reason why I didn't feel like I really had to pop back, because there was not a lot to share. At the same time, while nothing was happening, there was a very weird optimism going on. And don't get me wrong, don't stop that. That's great. I just don't understand why it wasn't there 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was. Now, while the game is at its lowest point ever, and on the brink again, people are optimistic. It's weird, it's great, I think it's too little too late, but hey, keep rolling with it. But there's two key areas I see that I want to clarify for people. I see misunderstanding or lack of understanding, sometimes it's phrased as the elephant in the room. That is, the sale of Planetside 2 and what it means. And it's not just Planetside 2, it's the entire IP. The IP of Planetside has been sold. And then I also see some confusion around Planetside 3, and I want to clear that up. And to do that, I'm going to start much further back. I'm going to start 10 years ago. So Planetside 2 launched in 2012. We stepped forward 2 years to 2014. We're at the cusp of battle royales coming on and taking over the gaming industry in a massive way. Daybreak Games has already been kicking around a battle royale mode for H1Z1. John Smedley reaches out to Brendan Green, otherwise known as Player Unknown, to come consult on H1Z1. Now the mode was already popular as a mod by Brendan Green in Arma 3. There weren't really any copyright issues, but John Smedley understood that he was really building on the back of Player Unknown, so he made sure to bring him in and have him consult in the game, have him in the fold. H1Z1 Battle Royale releases early 2015, early access, and it's a smash hit. Crushing the numbers on Steam, they haven't had a hit like this since EverQuest. About a month later, Sony sells off Sony Online Entertainment to Columbus Nova. That is this gaming branch that has done EverQuest, Star Wars Galaxies, Planetside 2, etc. Now, obviously, the sale was in the works for at least a year prior, but that's when it hit the news scene. And Columbus Nova is really an investment group. It is not a gaming studio. Hey, Cyrious, are we still talking about Planetside? Yes, guys, I'm laying the groundwork. I'm trying to remind everyone of the path we took to get here. Because you have to remember, when H1Z1 took off, resources got yanked from Planetside 2. So anyways, 2015, H1Z1's blowing up. The sale is happening, and not surprisingly, about 5 months after the sale, John Smedley steps down as CEO. Sony Online Entertainment has been renamed to Daybreak Games. I just want to drive home that it's not Daybreak Games that bought it. It wasn't a new team. Nothing happened. It's just Sony doesn't want this wing that's now owned by another company to still be called something Sony. So it got renamed to Daybreak Games. Generic thing, not associated with any brand. But the people in the company don't change, other than a few people at the very top that are from Columbus Nova are now on the board, and you will soon see Fast forward till October, Smedley has done his role in the transition. G. Ham now becomes the CEO. This is someone that came from Columbus Nova. He is now the CEO of Daybreak Games. This is where the shift happens. You know, it was Variant Interactive for a while. It was 989 Studios. There were a lot of people there, but the main person at the head was John Smedley, kind of the visionary, willing to do difficult games that you didn't know if they'd work. But he found some amazing successes in Tanarus, in Star Wars Galaxies, in Planetside. And he found critical and lucrative successes in H1Z1 Battle Royale and EverQuest. But getting there is hard, and it takes someone at the top that can see the long vision. And we don't have that anymore. Now we have an investment group that sees the short picture, that sees the year-end goals. We don't know when it happened, but PlayerUnknown left H1Z1 as a consultant. I feel like if John Smedley was still in the picture and really planned on sticking around, he would have fought harder to keep him. But that's just speculation. Either way, Brendan Green leaves Daybreak Games. And about a year after H1Z1's early access release, he begins development as PUBG. It's a little bit convoluted, but the easiest way to say it is that he starts to develop it with Blue Hole Studios. Unbeknownst to Columbus Nova, but this was really him heading off to sharpen his axe to behead Daybreak Games' Golden Goose in H1Z1. Next up, Daybreak Games cancels EverQuest Next. Or you could call it EverQuest 3. In G-Ham's defense, the development of EverQuest Next has been floundering. It's been split between this EverQuest landmark, this voxel-based, lots of player interaction with the world, Minecraft-esque RPG, and EverQuest Next, which is really just EverQuest 3. RPG set in the world of Norath, modernized, new adventure, new start. It lacks direction and is expensive, so the Columbus Nova leadership cuts it loose. When you're thinking about this, remember there was 3 games that they updated the Forge Light engine for. Planetside 2, EverQuest Next, H1Z1 Just Survive. And while it wasn't talked about with the same trifecta because it isn't an original IP, the upcoming sequel to DCO Universe Online, the Marvel version, would also build off of that engine work. So they just cut off one of the heads. Now, we move to 2017. March, PUBG releases early access. It explodes. By April, it surpassed H1Z1 in player count. By August, it is averaging 1 million concurrent users, and it maintains that streak for a year. H1Z1 player count craters. Columbus Nova execs have no idea what to do. The only thing they can think to do is cut more costs. The next year, 2018, H1Z1 Just Survive is canceled. The second head is cut. At this point, they start looking for outside investment. NantG steps in. It gets the rights to develop an EverQuest mobile game, and it takes over development of H1Z1, trying to revive the dead Battle Royale. Now, we don't know this at the time, but Daybreak Games has shifted their development focus from H1Z1 to Planetside Arena. They killed the EverQuest sequel. H1Z1 is dead. They're trying to develop a new superhero MMO, but that's still a ways off. And they noticed Planetside 2 actually still has a pretty dedicated fan base. In December of 2018, Planetside 3 is announced. I want to repeat that. Planetside 3 is announced. It's not Planetside 2.5. And while it's named Planetside Arena, it still is Planetside 3.
Now, if they do Planetside 3, count me in. I'll sign. Let's go. I want to roll Angry Army. Let's roll out. I'm not doing Planetside 2. Shit is too old. I'll do Planetside 3. I want to roll out in the Angry Army. But I feel like they don't want to make money, I guess. They don't want to do Planetside 3. But if there's ever a game that's like Planetside 3, please let me know about it.
I'm hard on this point because of this confusion that you see from Angry Joe. The reason they're not thinking about it is because they tried it. In their minds, they tried it, right? To a Planetside 2 player, they didn't. They did some weird battle royale. But to an executive that spent millions of dollars developing the next game in the Planetside franchise, it's Planetside 3. That was the development slot. They tried it, it failed, franchise done. It's pretty much simple as that. Now, if someone were to ever develop another Planetside game, should they call it Planetside 3? Absolutely. That's a great idea. But it's key to understand while Planetside is lingering around Daybreak Games, not owned by them, but it's published by them, and they, EG7, own the database, the code base, everything about it. Planetside 3 is a done deal and it failed. My recommendation to everyone is start talking about Planetside 4, because that's really what it is. You want Planetside 4. Okay, sidebar over, let's get back to it. Planetside Arena is announced at the end of 2018. And to really solidify that they think Planetside Arena is the future, they immediately turn around and sell lifetime memberships. This is a wildly short-sighted decision, and can only be dreamed up by someone that if they hit a certain sales number by the end of the year, they get a bonus. They sell lifetime memberships for $300. That's 20 months of game time. A little bit more if you pay annually. Another way to look at it is the players that purchased it have had membership for free since late 2020. What moron could have dreamed up? Hey guys, we've got this super dedicated fan base. Let's make the most dedicated of them stop paying. We don't want their money anymore. Sure, we'll take a little bit of it up front, but you know, these guys that have been subscribed for 8 years, that will probably subscribe for forever, we only need them to subscribe for another year and a half, and then we're good. That's a great way to keep a franchise going. So in the future, I'll talk more about things that are kind of kicking at the supports of the Planetside franchise, but this is the first major one. And it's not just Planetside, they're kicking at the supports of DC Universe Online and EverQuest, but that's a little different discussion. So anyways, they are all in on Planetside 3. Lifetime memberships for Planetside 2 go out end of 2018. Next up, 2019. EG7 isn't even a twinkle in Daybreak Games' eye yet, but EG7 goes public beginning of 2019. Valuation of approximately 117 million US dollars. Remember that number's relevant later. April 2019, NantG gives up. Tried doing some work on H1Z1. My recollection, this was like some sort of revert thing. It fails. It's dead in the water. They're like, here, take development back. NantG's investment is basically worthless. They still own the rights to EverQuest Mobile. Who knows, maybe that'll happen someday. And coming up next, Planetside 3. Daybreak Games return to the Battle Royale dominance. Don't worry, they're going to come back and take out PUBG, Fortnite, and Apex Legends. These Columbus Nova execs really know their stuff. So, September 20th, 2019, Planetside Arena launches. January 10th, 2020, Planetside Arena shuts down. So guys, this is effectively the third head chopped, because sure, Planetside 2 was the one developed first off of the Forge Light engine rework, but the company developing it had basically said, nope, we're giving up on it, we're going in this other direction, Planetside 3, here we go. So that was the disaster. Columbus Nova has come in and they've destroyed the future of EverQuest. They've destroyed the future of H1Z1. And they have destroyed the future of Planetside. Sucks to suck. But here's the thing. You still have got dedicated fans that have been here since the very beginning when it was a scrappy startup SOE Smedley era. EverQuest is doing TLP servers. That's killing it. The Planetside Arena team quickly shifts back to Planetside 2. And we get the escalation update, which is epic and completely revives the game. So in spite of the Columbus Nova executive team doing everything they can to destroy the future of these franchises, things carry on just by the sheer loyalty of the people that love them. So let's jump into early 2020. Z1BR last update. H1Z1's effectively shut down. It's still there, but the forums are dead. They're not actively updating it anymore. I mean, it's a complete disaster, honestly, like dumpster fire level of disaster. And so they do the smart thing. They start shopping it. And at the end of 2020, in December, EG7 buys Daybreak Games for $300 million US dollars. You have to remember now, EG7 has been public for less than 2 years. This is really a meteoric rise for them. And sure, technically it was EG7 buying Daybreak Games, but it's really more like a merger, because Daybreak Games is, on paper, the same size as EG7. And it really spikes the value of the company. For just a few months, this combined entity is worth over $1 billion US. So EG7, early 2019, 117 million, late 2020, over $1 billion. Now, EG7 has been helmed by Robin Floden, passionate, John Smedley-like figure, making games since he was a kid. All that stuff brings a lot of excitement. Now, the $1 billion valuation was never real. That was merger hype. And it crashes pretty hard after that, back to 700, 800 million valuation range. What happens? August 2021. Robin Floden is ousted. Guess who becomes the new CEO? You got it. Good old GM still hanging in there. He cratered the future of Daybreak Games. Hopefully he can do the same to all the EG7 companies. So anyways, EG7 has effectively been taken over by Columbus Nova. They got nothing going. All the potential projects have been killed. H1Z1's dead, Planetside Arena's dead, EverQuest's dead. Nothing's happening. Stock prices cratering. What do? You cut costs. We've canceled everything else. Time to cancel the Marvel MMO. DC Universe is about 10 years old. You're just trying to keep it going for that dedicated fan base that doesn't want to give up on their character. Should we start fresh with the modern MMO that's in the comic book franchise that won the movie wars? Nah, it's too costly. Let's not bother. Let's kill that one too. Marvel MMO, dead. So here we are. We're about a year ago now, early 2023. Rel leaves Planetside 2. He has been the lead designer for most of the game's life at this point. He picked it up while it was on life support, and he willed it back to existence. The height of that reinvigoration being the escalation patch, but it's been a long, exhausting run. And Outfit Wars doesn't really generate revenues. Osher wasn't well received. I mean, we're facing down the 12th anniversary of Planetside 2. It's really hard to keep this thing going, and it was a good time to step out. This is also about the time that I stepped away. We don't know who's the lead designer, or if there is one. It could just be done by committee now. Before the rest of 2023, other than a kind of Osher and construction overhaul that was slated to release under Rel's tenure, nothing really happened. The player count fall off was massive. I would also expect the revenues on Planetside 2 that year were dismal. The Planetside franchise is no longer a core IP. EG7, with G-Ham at the helm, releases the intellectual property rights to the Planetside franchise to some acquisition company, Bay Tree Limited or something like that. Doesn't matter. Planetside is the literal definition of a core IP. It began with Tonoros and Infantry, games released 27 years ago in the infancy of this company, that were the initial building blocks that led to EverQuest, its first smash hit, its next core IP. And then in the next wave of the company, Planetside 2 was the first one out after the Forge Light overhaul. The player models in H1Z1 were literally New Conglomerate light assaults to begin. Their next smash hit, core IP H1Z1, built off of the back of Planetside. And all of a sudden, it's no longer a core IP. We're going to finish out this timeline real quick, but we're going to talk a little bit about what this sale means. Q1 2024 EG7 valuation dips below 110 million. Remember that? They went public at a higher valuation. They bought a company for $300 million on top of that. They mushed two companies together, and those two companies are now worth less than the first one. I mean, G-Ham has just done an impressively bad job. I don't know how he doesn't come up on the forums more. Like, everyone hated on Smedley all day long. Well, he's out there coming up with groundbreaking games, Star Wars Galaxies, EverQuest, H1Z1 Planetside, and G-Ham comes in and smashes everything, crushes the future of all the franchises, and never a negative word, no problems. And to round it out, since Rel's departure, we've lost more than 50% of the population. Okay, so let's talk about this purchase a little bit more. I've seen it phrased on the forums that we want to hear more from Daybreak Games. We want to talk about the elephant in the room. Here's the thing. This isn't like a sale from Sony Online Entertainment to Columbus Nova, or even a merger of Columbus Nova and EG7. I think this is something that's very different and very bad for the franchise. And we're completely in the dark here, so I am into the realm of speculation, but this is how I understand the news and how I read it. Rogue Planet Games, the development studio, wasn't sold along with it. The codebase wasn't sold along with it. The only thing that was sold was the rights to the IP. There's really nothing you do with that. Sure, you could go make a mobile game, or you could start from scratch and make another Planetside game, but that is a massive effort. And all clues point to that's not the case. It's more likely a private equity firm that is really just interested in providing creative financing is who bought the IP rights. Lead designer Menace, he's not actually the lead designer yet. Let's call him veteran Planetside 2 and community member for now, is the one that broke the news on the sale to the community and also has a really good theory on who bought the IP, and I think he's correct. So here's how I see this going down. Daybreak Games is struggling. The stock price is crashing. They need cash, they're not generating enough from operations. There's a problem though. Interest rates suck. They just finished paying down massive debt on their balance sheets. The last thing they want to do is go take out new debt at high interest rates to create liquidity. Instead, they find a private equity firm that is willing to place a cash value on the intellectual property of the franchise. This firm has no interest in operating or doing anything with the IP, but they are willing to own it and then license it back to Daybreak Games, or in the event that Daybreak Games no longer wants to license the IP, they can go look for any other mobile publisher out there to license it to. So back to when we were talking about short-term goals. If they got a loan, you'd add $5.9 million in cash and $5.9 million in liability. By not getting a loan and selling the IP, instead you have no hit to liabilities on your balance sheet, and the cash you received is actually an increase to the assets on your balance sheet. So what happens to your balance sheet if assets go up and liabilities don't change? You guessed it, owner's equity increases. That's the shareholders. That's who they work for. Company that's owned Planetside 2 for 27 years.
I'm gonna throw you out on the street. You know why? So that Bill Lumberg's stock will go up 1/4 of a point.
To further twist the knife in their quarterly report, they say this transaction will not affect EG7's business plan. Right there. Planetside isn't part of it. They tried it. Planetside 3, Planetside Arena happened. They're giving up on the franchise. Back to this weird optimism. People are talking like, we don't have the information. Why aren't they saying more? Here's the thing. They are, guys. They're saying it right there. It's in the report to their investors. Most of the people that are looking for news know by now that EG7's quarterly reports are your best shot at getting information, because there's not a real communication stream from RPG. Sure, they're talking about the ongoing work that they're doing, but that doesn't really tell you anything about the long-term direction of the game. So let's talk a little bit more about this deal. And let's say I'm right. Much to my chagrin, that's usually what happens. If Astropto Capital got the better end, made a really good deal, the licensing fees start immediately. This could be structured in a few ways. Maybe it's a fixed cost, or it could be a percentage of sales. On top of that, they should create a contract. 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, requiring Daybreak Games to pay that licensing fee. So that's if Astropto Capital got the better end of the deal. On the other end of the stick, EG7 could have got the better end of the deal, maybe building into the sales that they had 5 years use of the IP with no licensing fees. Or it could even have no long-term contract. Maybe they start paying the fees immediately, but they can walk away at any time. The point is, there's a lot of ways the deal could happen, but no matter what this means is at some point the merry-go-round's going to stop. The game's obviously old and losing traction. Revenues go down there. They sold lifetime memberships, so its recurring monthly revenue has decreased. Now they've sold the license of the game, so soon the fixed cost of running the game monthly is going to go up. The combination of those things are going to bring Planetside 2 to an end. 8 years ago, when people were predicting its death, I'm like, that's the stupidest thing ever. They can run this game indefinitely. Even if there's like 200 people still subscribing, at the time, the server hardware was a fixed sunk cost. They own the IP outright, so it's not like they're licensing the Star Wars or DC Universe brand. It could be one server with little to no costs, and as long as there's a few members still paying, they just keep it running for them. But this changes things. This puts a period on the Planetside franchise. It will come to an end because of this. There is going to be a time. It may be 1 year, it may be 5 years. I don't know how the deal is structured, but it is going to be a financially better decision to just close the game down than keep it running. A handful of people will have a membership, and the cost of licensing BattlEye, licensing the IP, keeping the server hardware running will outweigh what they can make on the game. I've been through a lot of Planetside update, news, patches, and not one thing, no matter how bad the reception is, ever said to me, yes, this game is gonna die. But full on jettisoning the ownership, getting rid of the rights to the game, that's just a whole different level. If you have plans for Planetside 3, Planetside 4, Planetside Command and Conquer, Planetside Global Conquest, whatever it is, you don't bail on the IP and then license it back. When you've gotten that far down the road, you're done with it. It is game over for that franchise in the eyes of your company. The best thing that could happen now is the new IP owners, Astrapo Capital, being forced into a position where they actually have to go find someone that wants the franchise, that wants to either A, license it from them, or B, buy it from them. Amazon Game Studios is the first one that comes to mind. Tencent, Epic, whatever. I've never been a doomer, and I've been disappointed seeing so many doomer videos that are just out there for clicks. They don't really point to any specific event, but just kind of complain about the game and how, yes, the population's going down. Welcome to a game that's 12 years old. And the game doesn't suddenly change by the IP getting sold. Daybreak Games is still the publisher. Rogue Planet Games is still the developer. I want to be clear that nothing has suddenly changed. The game is still what it was. If you're having fun with it, keep having fun with it. But I also want to be clear that if you're a person that looks to the future and pays into the system now for future improvements, be very cautious with your money, because your dollars are going to go less and less far in incentivizing them to keep working on the game. In fact, I can tell you exactly what their money is going into. They're very transparent in their year-end report. Here it is. The first thing you have is Evil vs. Evil. This is coming out from Toadman Studios. It's supposed to release in Q2 2024. It's in beta testing now. It's like a vampire arena shooter, but it doesn't have the movement that everyone expects these days. Fortnite's got it, Apex got it. It's sliding, it's jumping, it's climbing. Shooters have moved on from that sort of generic movement mechanism, so we'll see how it does. Next, you've got MechWarrior Clans. This is the next installment in MechWarrior. That's getting developed by Piranha Studios. And man, I had a bunch of fun with MechWarrior 2 way back in the day, and I've never touched it again. I've always wanted to. But MechWarrior is kind of doing their thing. MechWarrior 5 is going. They're also developing a few more DLCs for MechWarrior 5. But Clans, the next standalone entry, is coming at the end of 2024. The next big investment is in Cold Iron Studios. They made Aliens Fireteam Elite, which was a successful party shooter. And while they're being very silent about what it is, it's a sequel to that game. So another alien shooter game. And they're kind of synergizing in-house, so Daybreak Games will be the publisher for that game. And then a combination of Cold Iron and Toadman Studios will be doing the development. And then after that, it's H1Z1. This is much farther down the road. They say they're in pre-production right now. They don't intend to release the game till 2026. But Daybreak Games' next big development is an H1Z1 title, however that looks. And then you get to the really dismal part of the report is live game portfolio. That is DC Universe Online, that is EverQuest, that is Planetside. Now this is just investment, so it doesn't factor in kind of the costs or ongoing maintenance of the game, which do include some patches. Some games will see more development from that ongoing maintenance than others. But what it's saying is actual investments in their ongoing games are next to nothing. That's 7.3 million Swedish krona. That's less than 700,000 US dollars. The bottom line is there's no investment in their current games. As it stands, we're in a very stagnant place for Planetside. They have teased a Sunder overhaul, and it concerns me because right now it's being teased as kind of the spring patch. Traditionally, the spring patch has been like the big thing throughout the year. Escalation was one of them. Where there was something massive that fundamentally altered the game, and what it did is it brought a lot of population back. People got excited. Overhauling the Sundra like this is concerning to me because that's not a patch. That's a tweak. That's a hot fix. Like, it's great that they're separating the deployment options from the defensive slot. Good. But nothing there is fundamentally changing the game in any significant way. In the same December of 2023 kind of teaser write-up, they're also talking about all these other things they're going to do. Class reworks, probably alluding to Infiltrator that everyone's complaining about. Yada yada. What's concerning here is, so we had the Sundra thing teased over 4 months ago. It's not even on the test server yet. And now they've already dipped back into the teaser bucket by recently speaking about this assault game mode that they're going to be working on. Like, all of this stuff is obviously ideas that were already in the pipeline long ago. They're just kind of picking, what was there on the idea board and what they work on. The problem is we've landed in a place where there's much more communication and much less getting done. We know we have lost devs like Alan Lapidus, who was a principal artist who's been shifted over to Standing Stone Games, probably working on the Lord of the Rings RPG. It definitely seems like Chris Bishop has been moved on. And we can fully expect most of us remaining to have to shift their time to either working with Cold Iron Studios or in the future working on the H1Z1 development. My assumption is that they will get assigned to still do some cycles on Planetside 2 to try to keep some appearance of development going, but their primary focus will have to be on other titles. So there's the rundown, guys. Sorry that it's a bit of a bummer, but just trying to paste some reality over all of this. To me, the best thing that could happen now are server merges. Yeah, I would love that. I almost feel like the fall off is going to be so fast, it might not even be worth their time, because A, it's database engineer time, and B, it puts them in a position when Emerald dies, if it's the only one there, there's a much bigger uproar, right? It can't be like, oh, just go play on the other US server. And if everyone has their veteran characters, are they going to subscribe? Sure, player counts will definitely go up. People that have been sitting there with their characters on a dead server just playing other games until it merges will come back for some time, but is it a revenue increase? I don't know. The next thing is a fast decline might be the best thing for the game. Previously, when they owned the game and they hadn't attempted Planetside 3, I would say you don't want that. You want a long tail, a long period where you keep the game nice and stable for veteran players to keep playing it, keep them interested in the franchise, and you use that long tail to get something else started. But that's not a thing anymore. They did Planetside 3, it failed, so there's no development there, and they don't own the franchise anymore. So I think what's best at this point is probably a rapid decline. Because what happens then is the private equity firm is forced to do something with the IP. They've got to license it to someone, they've got to sell it to someone, they've got to go somewhere else, or else it's just going to sit stagnant, and they're not going to make money on that. And with the current trajectory, that is absolutely what's happening. But I don't see this population cratering trend continuing at such a precipitous drop. They rolled out Outfit Wars fall of last year, not because they were ready for it or it's exactly what they wanted to do, but it's definitely something that stabilizes population. You get veteran players that want to get that banner, whatever it is. And if population continues to crater, I think they will take another swig of that stabilizer. It doesn't need to work well. There can be bugs and errors, and sure, the forum's going to complain, but that's great. There's actually something happening then. It's kind of one of those things where bad news is better than no news. And while this was a big information dump, just because it was time for me to get caught up with you guys, I'm hoping to revert back to my more consistent getting things released, and they will be shorter bites, more digestible. I said we would chat a little bit about what's up with me, what's up with the channel, and so here we are. And the truth is, I'm not sure what's up with the channel. I want it to be amazing and grow. The challenge is, Planetside 2 has never been able to be a creator's main game. It's always been used by creators as a stepping stone. Joshino started here, went on to Paladins. Lonehawk started here, went on to Overwatch. Yamix started here, went on to Elite Dangerous. Mukas started here, went on to cut weird gluey cube things. Kamikaze started here, dipped at BattleBit. Morphologist was here pretty early on, went over to Star Citizen. Anyways, I think you get the picture. The problem for me is I don't know what would be next. I don't know what game I would jump to. A Planetside type game is definitely the niche that I enjoy being in. And while a lot of good games have come and gone that are good stepping off points, I usually don't have the bandwidth to try to go get into those, to use those to kind of grab onto that hot air balloon and ride it away into the sunset. So I think it's more likely that you will see me kind of going down with the ship. I will be here making content about it. In the past, I did a lot of content that was there to try to drive new players to the game. And there's some people that have kind of tried to initiate that over the last year. And I'm sorry I couldn't be part of that for a few reasons. But the biggest one is there's just not enough here for me to call players to right now. There's not enough action from the Columbus Nova executives that says, hey, you should invest your time here. And I mentioned this at the beginning, but something that's really been dragging me away from the game is we bought a very cool farm property, but definitely has a lot of fixing up to do. And so I've debated, do I post content of that stuff here? The thing is, you know, I am understandably very typecast as a Planetside 2 update creator. People keep me subbed even when they don't play the game anymore, just to be like, okay, if something happens, Cyrious will let me know. I'll stay subbed there. When something actually is happening there, he'll keep me updated. So getting the clutter in your feed of, you know, overhauling chicken coops and just going through a bunch of trees with chainsaws and all that stuff might not be the right vibe, but it's what a lot of my free time is going into, so maybe I'll throw some of that stuff on the channel. I don't know. Overall, I'd love feedback. What do you guys want to see? Is there a type of game you would love to see me playing? When IRL is taking over and I don't have time to do gaming updates, is it interesting to see updates on what I got going there? Comment section feedback there is much appreciated. Okay, I think I'll stop there. Sorry if it's sudden. It's good to be back. We covered a lot of ground. Lots more to talk about in the future. But for now, fellow Araxians, I'm Commander Cyrious, and I will see you Planetside.